Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by eToro. Discover a simpler way to trade and invest in cryptocurrencies and more.
We're in Osaka, Japan, the land of the rising sun, and arguably the biggest congregation of blockchain developers around the world. We're here for Devcon 5. Last year in Prague, Vitalik unveiled a vision for Ethereum 2.0. Let's check in and find out how they're doing. Will ETH 2.0 ever launch? It's been an up and down week in crypto. The SEC filed emergency action against Telegram, the IRS is digging up crypto holdings, and Facebook's Libra saw major partners scrap their involvement in the project. But there's a flip side to all this fun. Because here in Osaka, building on the blockchain continues. Ethereum, building to the beat of their own drum, so to speak. 3,000 plus developers here. Some of the smartest minds as part of this hive, working, building. Joe Lubin, founder of Consensus, calling for 1 million plus developers to join the ranks. The Ethereum Foundation director announcing a crypto fund for UNICEF.
Just today, UNICEF announced crypto-denominated fund to support open source technology.
Plus Open Libra announced 30 plus organizations planning an open source fork of Facebook's Libra.
So this is an invitation to come help us steer the future of Libra. In Libra we trust, in Facebook we don't. And finally, PayPal, call me, I'm ready.
And of course, to kick things off, Vitalik taking the stage. Not yet announcing a definitive date for Ethereum 2.0, but more on that later from the community.
What did Satoshi really invent? Satoshi invented crypto economics. So we've had these algorithms for a long time, right? And so we've had decentralized consensus. What's the problem? Like, why hasn't this taken off? And the reason is ultimately that even in a system that has, say, 15 different parties, you have to have some mechanism for choosing who these 15 parties are, right? You could say, oh, it's like the 15 big major banks. Who here trusts at least 11 of the top 15 major banks? It could be 15 of the top world governments. Who here trusts at least 11 of the top 15 world governments? And by kind of planting the seed in 2009, Satoshi kind of created a really kind of interesting and great thing. And now we're here building great things on top of it. Thank you.
All right, that was excellent. All right, here we go.
So we're here on the floor at Devcon 5 and it's all about building. As you can see, I've rolled up my sleeves and I'm ready to go and talk to the builders. And as I walk through here, I see Sam, nice to see you again.
Same.
What are you expecting here from Ethereum Devcon this year?
I want to see some amazing speakers. The attendance is pretty good this year as well.
So what kind of content can we find here at Devcon?
I think there's a lot of things that are here to help dApp developers, such as myself, kind of learn about how they can use Ethereum in their day-to-day projects.
And I'm looking forward to the scaling of the Ethereum platform, seeing the kind of the milestones around scaling, and some of the interesting applications on Ethereum like DeFi, decentralized finance.
It looks like there's more builders here and less shillers here, if that's the right word. What do you think?
And that's what the community really wants when they come to these conferences. This isn't about price. It's not about day-to-day ETH up, ETH down.
Yeah, I saw a code of conduct there, and one of the things in the code of conduct was no shilling of ICOs. Now they say that the hype has gone down on Ethereum, but when I look around me here, there's a lot going on, and there seems to be a different type of hype. After seeing Vitalik on stage and all the big talks, are you bullish about ETH 2.0? I mean, is ETH 2.0 going to be a reality?
Yes, definitely. I'm certain of it.
Being at Devcon, it's important for us to get the views of the development team and the core development team. And in that spirit, I've got Hudson with me. Hudson is one of the early guys in Ethereum and one of the Can you call yourself a core developer? What's the right terminology?
You know, people call me a core developer sometimes, but since I do less coding and more community management, I guess community manager is the right term.
You're talking about a very decentralized community, all contributing to build this new thing, which we're now calling ETH 2.0. It must be quite a nightmare to coordinate.
Oh man, okay, yes it is, first of all. But second of all, because we're so distributed and we have to come to rough consensus, it's not like a democracy or a dictatorship or anything like that. It's challenging because you have to take signals from the community and from those signals reach some kind of decision.
How are those decisions made? Like if you want to make a change to the software or upgrade the software or do something, how do you guys make that decision?
So it's normally made organically, and what I mean by that is we have the community members or some of the core developers or someone who has an idea. They have this technical process called the Ethereum improvement proposals where they submit their idea, and then from there we move on to the implementers implementing it and then discussing if they want to actually do it or not, and then it goes in. And that's kind of like the simple way to put it. What really happens is that people run the software. If you decide to run the software that we implement, then you're making a choice.
Now, a lot of people have said that Vitalik is quite central, and specifically that the foundation kind of revolves around him and he makes all the big decisions. How true is that?
You know, that in the very beginning, that was a necessity, and that used to be true, as he is the creator of Ethereum. But as we grow larger and larger, it's really shown that he's taken a step back on purpose so that we could have more community members get involved in making decisions and it doesn't have to rely on him.
Okay, now lots of big decisions to be made for this Ethereum 2.0 upgrade.
Yes.
Are you confident that with all the distributed teams all around the world, all building different stuff that has to come together to form this magic Ethereum 2.0, are you stressed about it?
You know, I'm not as stressed about it, and the reason is because for as long as I've been in here, I've seen us come together. I've seen the pragmatism, I've seen the great community and kinship that we all have here, and the people, superstars like Danny Ryan, who lead the Ethereum 2.0 effort along with Vitalik and others, doing just a really great job, so I'm not worried.
Can you put your hand on your heart today and tell me that the decisions are made in a decentralized way and that no group or people have a louder voice?
I can't say that, and the reason is because right now it's almost impossible to have a fully decentralized, governance system because it's just too disorganized. There has to be people who step up as leaders and who take that charge, and we got to do our best to be altruistic, to be good for the community and listen to the community. So I would say right now, for those who want a really technical term, we're more of a technocracy. We have some of the core developers and the biggest developers in our space leading the way, but that doesn't mean that we can't evolve into something much greater.
What's your biggest stress when it comes to the launch of Ethereum 2.0? What's the part that's stressing you the most?
The transition with the Ethereum dApps that are on the network today, how they're going to transition into 2.0 is getting more and more clear, but just the organization around these hundreds of thousands of tokens and users and dApps and everything, just all that coalescing into something that can be moved to what is effectively a new chain is really, really exciting.
And how long until we're online, from the time that you launch phase 0 until the time that we're online on ETH 2.0, how long will that take?
We have a tradition in Ethereum where we don't like to give timelines, and the reason for that is security.
Know why.
Yeah, we know why. It's there's security considerations, there's road bumps that happen. All of us aren't we're not like a traditional company. We can't all decide when things are going to happen.
Is it a 1 year thing? Is it a 2 year thing? I'm not asking you for specific dates, but how long is this process? When will we know if we're out of the woods?
I would say that for phase 0, we're definitely going to see that in 2020, likely early 2020. Phase 1 could be the end of 2020 and going into 2021 is my personal guess. But again, because it's a decentralized ecosystem, those dates are not exact. It's one of those it's going to depend on...
Ethereum, dates are never exact.
They are never exact.
We're not going to hold you to it. All right, well, we wish you all the best of luck for your role at Ethereum 2.0, and hopefully by 2021 or 2022 we'll be on the mainnet.
All right, thank you very much.
But is that too long to wait? We spoke to some key funds here who invested in an array of projects built on top of Ethereum. First was Jihan Chu of Kinetic, an early Ethereum evangelist across Asia.
So I think the backdrop of some of where this comes from is this idea and this feeling that Ethereum is somehow under fire.
So on stage right now, you're watching Jihan Chu from Kinetic, and he's actually the first VC ever to speak at an Ethereum Devcon. Let's listen to what he has to say.
But this is not a permanent condition for us. We know as people in the Ethereum community that this is a natural growing pain. We're growing and it's painful, but it's growth.
So Jihan, another year, another Devcon 5, and this year you say you're coming in peace. Tell us a bit about your presentation and what it was about.
It was really almost like a love letter from the investor community to the Ethereum community to try to be more open about how we as investors can really help out and how we can try and support Ethereum in its time of need.
So when you look on the other side, there are other blockchains that are newer blockchains without the community, but with technology that's actually working and that actually does have proof of stake. Why are you so stuck and bullish on Ethereum?
Ethereum, you said it yourself, the Ethereum community is probably one of the single most differentiating factors. And it's not just the number of people and the number of developers and the number of applications being developed by the community, it's also the tone and the tenor and the passion that people still have for Ethereum. They say it's always darkest before the dawn. And this idea that there's a fatigue, there's a kind of a malaise around Ethereum, it's true. If you look around at the conference, there's fewer people here. But at the same time, we are about to kind of embark on this new dawn of Ethereum. The Ethereum 2 kind of roadmap is out there. There's a question on timing, and that's fine. But people are discounting how important ETH 2.0 will actually be when it's launched. There is going to be a massive bloom of disruption in all arenas of finance and enterprise, which is going to be spurred by Ethereum.
I think what I'm asking is, do you think realistically that ETH 2.0 can launch?
ETH 2.0 is definitely going to launch. There's no question that it will, or about whether it will launch or not.
All the moving parts, all these different things happening in different places while the aeroplane is actually in the air. I mean, what you're trying to do is you're trying to rebuild the plane while it's actually flying.
It's software and it's open source and it's community and it's messy, and that's just how things are. If you kind of take that as the starting point for how great things are developed in the open source side, then great, then we're fine actually. This is what normal looks like. This is what success looks like at this point. And there are other chains that are quote unquote faster, more scalable, etc. But it's not just about the technology, and anybody thinks that
it's about the community. It is about nothing beats this community.
Nothing beats the community. And when there is something, and I'm sure there's great projects out there who are also doing great things like Cosmos and others, they will build their community, but they are lagging behind. And it's just a fact.
Let us know what you think. Let us know if you think that Ethereum 2.0 will launch and whether the power of the community can actually make this thing happen. Get me on Twitter. I'm at CryptoManRun.
And then here we have the beginnings of the finality mechanisms. So the beacon chain is going to be aware of its last finalized checkpoint.
Next, we spoke to Lasse Clausen, the go-to VC out of Berlin, one of Ethereum's hotspots.
We saw you last year at Devcon 4 in Prague, and here you are again in Osaka. What's your biggest takeout from this Devcon?
It's almost every time I go, I really get surprised by how big, how rich the developer community of Ethereum is around Ethereum.
When we look at the protocol itself, when you look at what Vitalik's saying, and there's a lot of work to do to get it to ETH 2.0.
Yeah, for sure there's a lot of work to it, but and then on top of that you have the really strong network effects because you have sort of composability of different financial primitives. That plus this developer community of the smartest developers in the world,
blockchain, yeah.
Right? Not this enterprise devs that you buy.
Now, are you saying that this ETH community is all we need to overcome that? Or do you think that there's a chance that one of the other blockchains will actually get this traction and start attracting a community?
I think the odds are very low, to be honest. It's really hard to take over a community. That's something that builds organically over time. It's not 100% rational. It's definitely not about TPS and transaction speed, right? I don't think scalability is something that is really that urgent at this point, and you can see by where the developers are, they don't care about the faster TPS chains at this point.
So I'm going to challenge you, because I know your fund, 1KX, is a fund that invests primarily in tokenized protocols.
Token networks, yes.
Token networks. And you're very bullish about what's going on here. You sound like you're screaming Ethereum is the only way to go.
And we're not even invested in Ethereum.
And you're not even invested in Ethereum?
No. We did invest in somewhat general purpose smart contract platforms. So one of them is Space Mesh.
Yes, and proof of space and time.
It's proof of space time. And I think it's really the only chain we see that can actually onboard millions of new people into crypto in an organic way through mining, right? And
which is so easy to mine. All you need is hard drive space.
Hard drive space at home, could be your Xbox, could be a PC, could be a setup box from your cable, right?
So I don't want to talk about other protocols because this is a show dedicated to Ethereum.
Got it.
The most exciting projects that you've seen or are seeing on Ethereum today, what are they?
Nexus Mutual is really a fantastic project because also really exemplifies our thesis that these open source token networks have much better chances of aligning different interests of different stakeholders into a very harmonious sort of network effect, and Nexus Mutual is a mutual insurance on top of Ethereum.
So it's a real DAO insurance, which is amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, one more project that you're excited about building on Ethereum.
So Matter Labs is something that we invested in. It's a zero knowledge based scaling solution for Ethereum, but it's a sidechain that then allows for fast transactions and at a later stage also for private transactions.
If you were to summarize what you saw here in one closing line after being at 3 Devcons, what's the one-liner?
The mind share of the smart developers matters the most in at least in the infrastructure phase of crypto that we're in.
Lester, it's been a great pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Users can effectively do direct on-chain interactions in Audius without having a Coinbase account and buying ETH and putting it into their MetaMask and writing down their 12-word seed phrase and yada, 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 right? And for our use case, that works.
We're coming to you from Devcon 5 in Osaka, Japan. Stay tuned for more crypto trader coverage.
The VideoCoin Network, the next generation of cloud video services. Consumers are streaming video anywhere and everywhere, cutting the cord on TV and cable. This is rapidly transforming media and contributing to high costs of encoding, storing, and delivering media files over the internet. Entrenched cloud providers control the market. Centralized and expensive, they create vendor lock-in and inhibit innovation. Content publishers have no way to recover the skyrocketing costs of these new services. The entire video industry is at an inflection point. Enter the VideoCoin Network. Powered by a decentralized video ecosystem, it transforms cloud video into an optimized, algorithmically driven market. This allows us to deliver revolutionary price efficiencies, much like Airbnb and Uber. Join the VideoCoin revolution at videocoin.io.
The future of Ethereum in one sentence.
I think that Ethereum is the trust layer for the whole planet.
Hey guys, can you summarize Devcon for me in one sentence?
It's the decentralized future. There are just so many ways to scale the Ethereum network, whether it's on ETH 2.0, which is going to ship, whether it's on layer 2.
Which is going to ship. When is ETH 2.0 going to ship?
I hear it's going to ship in January.
Is there any other chain that can compete with Ethereum?
For a permissionless network, what really matters is developer ecosystem. And that's where Ethereum is king at the moment.
As I understand, you're now at Algorand, and Algorand now walking around an Ethereum Devcon. Tell me how that works.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to be as interoperable as possible. That's kind of our mission statement at this point. My objective is to find a good developer resource, a critical mass of developers, and Ethereum is the place for that.
So all the builders here at Ethereum, if I look over here, I've got Meta from Casper Labs.
As you're well aware, we are spearheading CBC Casper research from a very well-known Ethereum researcher, and we hope that the Ethereum community will accept our research once we prove that it works.
So as you can see here, it's all about building. There's no talk about price, no talk about ICOs and all the fluff that we used to get. It's all about building. If you thought Ethereum was all about technology and a bunch of geeks developing a protocol, well, think again. Because our next guest says that this story is actually a story about devotion, about deceit, about passion, and all the things which make for a great book. Tell us about this book that you're writing on Ethereum.
My book is really meant to be read like a novel. It's a story about how Ethereum got created and how all this like group of crazy people from different backgrounds came together and the explosion that happened from that combination.
So it's an amazing explosion and it's really brought everybody here.
Yes.
Give me some of the meat in the book.
Well, it's interesting to learn how the second biggest cryptocurrency came to be. You know, like it came out of the mind of this 19-year-old, you know, who was traveling the world, meeting all the Bitcoin projects and realized, okay, Bitcoin is great, but there's a step forward to take here. One of the most dramatic aspects of the book was this division in the initial team where, you know, some wanted to have Ethereum be a for-profit company. Like they had this vision that Ethereum would be the decentralized Google, like the blockchain Google of the future. And then the other faction of the team who really wanted it to be a non-profit foundation like it is today.
So who were the two factions? Who was on the one side, who was on the other side?
Well, on the like for-profit side, Charles Hoskinson was kind of leading that charge. And on the non-profit side, obviously Vitalik. So, I mean, as a result of that, you know who's still on Ethereum and who's not.
Is that the split of when Charles Hoskinson actually fell out of the Ethereum bunch?
Yeah.
Tell me what happens after that.
So there's a lot more drama after that, and it's kind of driven by how much Ethereum was attacked and how it kind of succeeded and grew stronger from those attacks. At the time when Ethereum was having its Devcon in Shanghai, it was being constantly attacked with like denial of service attacks at the beginning of Devcon, and like, you know, developers had to like scramble and like secure the network and you know, while this like conference was going on. And then obviously like the DAO hack,
of course,
obviously, and then like the whole like ICO boom, but there's a whole lot of drama there. You know, my book does go through kind of that boom and bust.
Tell us a little bit about the power struggles. Like, give us the undercurrent of what happens in the foundation.
You know, I think with the foundation, the main thing to know is that Vitalik has, you know, the reins. He has the hold of the foundation. It's interesting to remember that it's a decentralized project, but the Ethereum Foundation itself is pretty centralized around Vitalik.
You've now seen the workings under the hood. Do you think Ethereum is going to be the biggest supercomputing network in the world, decentralized supercomputing network in the world?
It's hard to say, but I think based on the information we have today, yes, I'm pretty bullish on Ethereum.
When does the book launch?
Between May and June next year.
And what's it going to be called?
Okay, so the name is The Infinite Machine.
All right, so The Infinite Machine in bookstores next May and June.
Yeah. Hopefully with pre-order available soon. So.
With pre-order available soon? I never knew that Ethereum was so political, so I guess I'm going to have to read the book and learn all about it.
And now let's take a minute and learn what all the projects building on Ethereum are up to.
So this is the sponsor hall here at Devcon 5, and as you can see, they keep it separate from the main stage and all the big talks, really to avoid the whole environment of shilling and projects. This event is more about building, but in that spirit, let's take a look around and see what's going on here.
Our main focus is basically security tokens, so people issuing real estate tokens. We have a big project in Thailand, we have a project in UK, we have a project in the United States. We have a few projects around the world.
We have a very close to production-ready implementation of Plasma. We're about to enter our audit, so that's really exciting on the engineering side.
EY, from a blockchain perspective, is really focused on enabling business-to-business transactions. We are probably one of the biggest auditors of blockchain exchanges and crypto assets, and we're also really focused on building the infrastructure companies need to transact over public and private blockchains.
So guys, if you were to summarize Devcon in one sentence, what would it be?
Purging.
Purging?
Yep, purging and cleansing and reawakening.
Golem is up to a lot lately. We have a video transcoding demo up at our booth. We also have GWASM, which is live on mainnet for developers to be able to build applications on our network.
But the people who have been using it are often using it for projects that there wouldn't have really been any other way to solve. Companies like IBM and Intel and Fujitsu and Hitachi and then there's kind of banks and healthcare companies, so like JP Morgan, Aetna, which is a big healthcare company in the US.
Learning more about DeFi.
all about DeFi.
In the last months especially, we saw very high interest in Maker, but also in general in decentralized finance.
Mintbase is a non-fungible token minting platform. It allows anyone to be able to mint tokens, but what we specialize in is how we allocate those NFTs to users.
Which is basically trying to make a consumer-grade banking experience out of decentralized finance, out of Ethereum. You can hold any asset you want and you can spend it in the real world with a Visa debit card.
So we see Matic again, a scaling solution for Ethereum. Why does Ethereum even need a scaling solution?
So Ethereum blockchain is currently completely like choked because the supply is very less in terms of the TPS and the amount of transactions you can do on Ethereum, and there are many dApps, so you need scaling.
Everybody knows that. Can Ethereum ever fix their own issues?
We are there to do that, right?
Bifrost is a middleware platform in between dApps and protocols. One dApp can choose 4 protocols all at once, giving the benefits from each.
The vibe here this year seems to be much more execution-based. I think people are really focused on shipping stuff and getting stuff to market, and that feels really exciting.
We are always bullish on the environment. We see that the movement is growing, and more importantly, we see more projects which are successful, that are building their products using the technology. So I think it's all good signs.
Now you see what we mean by what makes the Ethereum community so strong. Now let's talk to an outsider, Bitcoin Cash's Roger Ver, who actually took the main stage here, but the media were not allowed to record.
So here's one guy I never expected to see at an Ethereum conference, but now I've seen him at an Ethereum conference 2 years in a row. Roger, what brings you to an Ethereum conference?
I like things that work, and Ethereum works amazingly well and has enabled all sorts of amazing things around the world, so this won't be my last Ethereum conference. I'm sure I'll be at more in the future as well.
Roger, the big word here is decentralized finance. DeFi, DeFi, DeFi. And I know that it's something that's very close to your heart and really one of the reasons why you're in this movement. Tell me about what you've seen here that makes you excited. Have you seen any applications, any real progress in DeFi that makes you really excited?
I think it's this whole new wave of non-custodian financial services. And so one of the ones I'm the most excited about, that I love Ethereum tokens and ERC20 tokens and ICOs, but like, on Ethereum, to the best of my knowledge, there's not a way to do it in the same way that the Bitcoin Cash tokens can. We now have anonymous bearer share tokens.
I knew you would bring Bitcoin Cash in somehow, but go on.
Well, I'll promote whatever works. And I'll gladly promote. Ethereum's fantastic. If you want to have an ICO today, Ethereum's a fantastic platform to do it on because you have all this infrastructure already in place. If you're looking to make a security token, Bitcoin Cash is the place to do it because you can now make Bitcoin Cash tokens, send them to anyone anywhere in the world, and then pay dividends directly on-chain to every token holder with whatever address they're in whatever country, anywhere.
We were speaking earlier about getting interest paid on stablecoins, which is probably one of the next big waves in crypto, is actually keeping your money in digital dollars and actually getting interest paid. Tell me about what you've seen in that space.
Yeah, so I'm very confident Bitcoin Cash is going to be the stablecoin platform, and the reason why, because you can't do it on the other platforms, you can pay the interest that's earned on the fiat in the bank directly on-chain to all the stablecoin holders using this tool we built over on Bitcoin.com that literally, it just scans the blockchain to see every address that's holding whatever token, and then you know every address with whatever token. So if you, for example, had Tether on Bitcoin Cash, you'd see what addresses own Tether, and then boom, at the end of every month, you share the interest that the bank's paying on the dollars to all the Tether holders on the Bitcoin Cash chain.
But seriously speaking, we're in the last day of Devcon. Have you seen any Ethereum projects that you're excited about, or developments in Ethereum, maybe in the DeFi space, that really excite you?
I just set up my first DAI wallet and account and locked in my first Ethereum into that. So that was fun and interesting. I'm excited about prediction markets and oracles and that sort of thing coming, and I think people shouldn't underestimate ICOs in general. Like, this is such a powerful tool to connect investors with entrepreneurs anywhere in the world, regardless of national boundaries.
When you look at Ethereum and you look at the progress that they're making, do you think that they've made good progress, or do you think that they've now stifled?
They've clearly made good progress. The question is, are they going to continue to make good progress in the future?
Some would argue that they've been very slow and that that they're not progressing as fast as they should be.
I wish I could say the Bitcoin Cash developer community was this big and passionate, but obviously it's not. So not yet.
No, not yet. Nowhere near this size.
Yeah. And there was definitely a lot of developer brainpower here at this conference.
How many wallets are out there today? How many of your wallets are out there today?
Around 5 million Bitcoin.com wallets.
5 million Bitcoin.com wallets.
And around 40 million blockchain.com wallets. And who knows how many Coinbase wallets as well on top of that. So anybody within a wallet on any of those has access to Bitcoin Cash.
That's staggering numbers. Yeah. Roger, thank you very much. Always good to see you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you very much. You're watching Crypto Trader coverage from Devcon 5 in Osaka. Stay tuned for more Crypto Trader after the break.
So you've heard about these two cryptos that are going to explode?
Names. Or I'm posting your karaoke video.
You said you deleted it. Okay. There's two. Here's one.
Tired of missing out? Join eToro and start trading cryptocurrencies in no time. eToro. Sign up for free.
Buying the cryptos?
No, I'm watching you living la vida loca.
It's time for the Mashinsky Minute again. And if you're asking yourself what the Mashinsky Minute is, it's 1 minute where we let Alex Mashinsky give an Alex Mashinsky rant. So Alex, what's on the Mashinsky Minute for today?
We're talking about the SEC and the ETF. We're going to figure out if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
All right, so rant away.
So I'm going to take the other side of the trade, the other side of the coin, and object to what everybody else is saying. Oh, it's such a bad thing. We should have gotten an ETF. Well, let's think about why the SEC is objecting again and again and again. And the reason is they're saying there's manipulation. Well, there is manipulation. There might not be manipulation with the US-based exchanges that are licensed and regulated, and they have to do what they have to do. But let's take an example with BitMEX, right? BitMEX, you put 1 Bitcoin and they give you 100 times leverage. They generate 100 synthetic Bitcoins that do not exist. And if those Bitcoins do not exist, do we really have 21 million Bitcoin or 200 million Bitcoins, right? So the problem is that when somebody can print their own Bitcoins to infinity, they can also crush the prices anytime they want to because they basically control their own treasury. So that's the bad news, right? That's kind of like what's holding us up. But it's very important for people to understand, and we talked about this before, that it's not about the institutions. Everybody's waiting for the institutions to launch exchanges and to launch ETFs and so on, right? We talked about the 4 main relay race where the baton has been handed off between the speculators. Well, starting with anarchists, then the baton went to the libertarians, then it went to the speculators, and the speculators at $20,000 were supposed to hand off the baton to the institutions. No one's going to bail us out besides 100 million retail users who buy Bitcoin because they want store of value or because they want interest income the way Celsius does it. So that's my story, that's my rant, and I'm sticking to it.
Alex, if I look at the Celsius rates for lending this week, it seems like the rates have gone up and you're getting almost 6% on your Bitcoin.
Now what we do is we basically take your coins, we go out there, we make sure that we get paid the highest rate possible. And we give you back, you the depositor, 80% back. We're doing such a good job that companies like BINANCE and Coinbase have finally decided to pay you a little bit back. You know, Coinbase pays 1.25% on stablecoins, on USDC. Celsius pays 11%. That's almost 10 times more. So what do you want to do? Do you want to give it to Coinbase? Do you want to give it to some other exchanges, or do you want to deposit those coins with Celsius and earn 5, 6, 7 times more? At Celsius, everybody gets to paid interest. Same interest for the $1 million guy and the $10 depositor. Come try it out, and you will see that I'm telling the truth.
So that's the Mashinsky Minute. Stay tuned for more Crypto Trader.
From the builders, let's get into the code with OpenZeppelin.
So as I scroll through my phone here and I scroll through the comments on Twitter, it looks like the Bitcoin maximalists are having a field day. Why is everyone here so positive, despite the fact that the technology is not really scalable at the moment?
It's true that technology is not scalable, but we're building the future here.
So Open Zeppelin, just tell our viewers a little bit about what Open Zeppelin does, because you guys have been around for a while, and actually your company depends a lot on Ethereum.
So we're a leading blockchain security company that we perform security audits. So we work with the Ethereum Foundation, auditing their Solidity compiler, and we also, many of the projects we work with, they're building on top of Ethereum, and to be honest, 99% of everyone that's building something is building it on top of Ethereum.
Why is everyone still building only on Ethereum?
Look at this place, man. The smartest people in the world. You have a big ecosystem, you have a big community, you have wallets, you have exchanges, you have companies, you have security companies like us. Everyone's building on top of Ethereum. It's really hard to replicate, and even though these are hard technical problems that not only Ethereum is facing, but all the other blockchains and all the other projects are facing it as well, I think these guys will figure out better first.
What happens when you compare Ethereum to someone like, say for example, EOS, where they have a $4 billion war chest? Do you think that money can beat community?
No way. No, money cannot buy community, they cannot buy core values, they cannot buy culture, they cannot buy all the things. And do you know anyone that's building on top of any other blockchain that's not Ethereum? It's hard to find.
It's hard to find. So help me out here. I want to write a tweet back to the Bitcoiners, the Bitcoin maximalists. What should I write? Dear Bitcoin maximalists.
What you're doing is great, but the community is the one that is going to push you forward.
That's a message to our Bitcoiner maximalist friends. Let's see if the Ethereum community will succeed. I guess only time will tell. So someone from Consensus has to be bullish about Ethereum, but the underlying technology is slow and isn't fit for purpose.
Scalability and throughput have been huge concerns, you're right, over the last couple of years, but I think with the transition to Ethereum 2.0, as well as second layer scaling solutions like Scale, for example, we see huge transaction throughput being increased and a lot of dApps using them.
I've never seen so many smart people in one place.
I think that Ethereum is here to stay for a very long time.
But has it won the race?
I think it's winning for sure, and that there's a lot of other great protocols that can add to it. I don't think anything's going to take away from what Ethereum's built so far.
So David, as a big fund and an investor in the space, what are your biggest takeaways from Devcon 5?
I think DeFi has really matured and is here. We've seen now it's the majority of the transactions on the Ethereum network are all DeFi related. So
you mean it's not kittens anymore?
No, I think we've moved beyond the kitten stage and we're really sort of embracing real world finance applications.
So Stan, are you excited about the progress here of Ethereum and this big promise of Ethereum 2.0?
I'm more excited about what MakerDAO has been announcing on the multi-collateral assets. I think it's like an eternal money printing machine, but in a very clever way.
It's collateralized money, but collateralized against any type of asset, so which makes it very, very exciting.
One such component succeeding, as we've said before, DeFi. And we're talking to a professor and Ethereum maximalist now at our sponsor eToro with an exciting DeFi trend in development.
My favorite professor, Professor Onwiros, what are your thoughts about Devcon 5? I know you've been to all the other Devcons. Tell me about Devcon 5.
But I think the biggest announcement for us was the launch of multi-collateral DAI.
For our viewers that don't know what multi-collateral DAI is, what is it exactly?
So it's an extension of the existing DAI system for other collateral than Ether, which is what's used today on the single one, or called CDP.
So you can now use tokens other than Ethereum to issue on collateral on the DAI protocol.
Exactly, because with the growth of DeFi, we expect to see much more tokenized assets used as collateral. It could be gold that's been tokenized, or...
So it can really be anything. Anything that's tokenized can now be used as collateral on the DAI system.
They'll add a few ones to start with, but the potential is adding anything, which is pretty exciting.
And you guys at eToro also launched or made some announcements. Tell me about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so we launched a language for derivatives called Lira, and there are a couple of examples. You can run futures and option on testnet now.
I saw that. It was so quick. It was like you could write a futures contract in 2 minutes.
Exactly. And we have a promotional for Devcon until the end of the month. If people want to sign for our newsletter, they can get 3,000 Japanese yen X, which is tokenized Japanese yen on eToro X.
Oh wow, amazing. So how do our viewers claim that?
Very simply, go to demo.lira.org, sign for the newsletter on Lira, and when you first time there, you're going to have a pop-up where you can actually sign for that.
So that's demo.lira.org if you want to get 3,000 yen for free, and that's about $30. So that's it from Devcon 5 here in Osaka, Japan. We leave here with a big question as to when ETH 2.0 will launch, and if it does, will it be successful? For now, we're leaving Japan with the threats of a typhoon rising above us. We'll see you next week from New York City. Until then, I'll be on Twitter at CryptoManRun, and you should trade well, my friends.
Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by eToro. Discover a simpler way to trade and invest in cryptocurrencies and more.